Welcome to another edition of GR's Let's Talk Tax. I'm Juanita Huburn, and we are quite pleased that you've joined us for this edition. We'll be speaking with the Assistant Commissioner, Lavina Walrond, and she's joined this week by Irvin Day. He's a supervisor, or as they refer to him, the officer in charge. He's stationed at Curverton. Our big issue this week, we're talking about facilitating Guyana-Suriname trade. And if you're planning to head to Suriname anytime soon, this is a program that you don't want to miss because they will be providing all the information you need to get, especially if it's the first time you're going to be going to Suriname using the ferry. Lavina, Irvin, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
Well, first of all, I know a lot of people are going to use this opportunity. School's out. It's a really cheap holiday, I understand. You can drive across to Suriname. There's a ferry there. Can you tell us, and it's not something that we think about quite often, that, you know, you're actually going across to another country using a boat. We think, you know, as opposed to when you will be using a plane. So, Lavina, can you walk us through perhaps, I know there's some border agreement we have with Suriname. Can you walk us through that agreement?
Yes, most definitely. Well, the government of Guyana and the government of Suriname would have seen it fit to come up with an agreement to facilitate trade, not only visiting, but trade, you know, through the borders, Guyana, Suriname. And that, I think, agreement was signed in 1998, so it's pretty old. And it have provisions for trade, and like I said, persons traveling just for vacation. What I observed with the agreement, they would have adopted or accommodate the various legislations, make provisions for accommodation of legislations for entry in Suriname, and likewise Guyana. The agreement basically spans not only legislations performed or administered by the Guyana Revenue Authority, but also those administered by the Immigration Office. So basically all the players that are involved, and even Ministry of Health to an extent. Yes.
So you have, so when we think about it, and we think it's just a boat ride, it is a very complex thing. It's just
yes,
as if
it's just like traveling. It's almost similar. The experience is just a little different because it's by boat, but most of the provisions that you would find at a airport,
yeah.
or yes, you would definitely find there.
Thank you, Lavina.
Yes.
Now, Irvin, I understand you're the officer in charge. You're actually stationed at Curverton. So your experiences are very interesting. I'm curious to find out some of them, which I'll get to in just a bit. But tell us a little bit about what you do in Curverton for the Guyana Revenue Authority.
Okay, as the officer in charge of Curverton, I'm tasked with monitoring and the collection of revenue for the quarantine region. Now, I say region because, you know, it's wide. Now, we have 3 main revenue collecting ports, 2 of which is legal. 1 is legal, sorry, 2 of which not so legal.
Right.
The backtrack, we normally say it's an illegal port, but to travel through the backtrack, there are requirements. Now, we would not have a custom officer full-time there, but we do have officers there. We have police ranks. There's immigration sometimes, even port health officers. So when we use the term, it's an illegal port, it's kind of, you know, it's not really, because
You have monitoring.
Wasn't established.
it's monitored.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
monitored.
It's monitored, yeah.
Yes. For the other 2 ports, Kamwaima, as Ms. Lavina spoke about in the agreement, there are provisions in this agreement that covers our operation at Curverton. Now, we monitor really the vehicles. The vehicle aspect, that's the part that is more prominent in the agreement. Right then, the passenger part of it, the going and coming, that's an immigration duty. Now, as we would say, cargo is our business.
Right.
Duties and taxes is our goals. My challenge is, as a custom officer, is getting persons to understand that paying taxes is not a benefit for me, nor the Guyana Revenue Authority, but for all of us as a nation.
Now, I'm gathering that we might, because it's a boat ride, we might be treating this a little bit more lightly than we would say if we were going with a plane. When we look at, because we know when we're heading through the Cheddi Jagan airport, for example, we know there are things that are required of us, which we comply with. We have forms to fill, documents to fill out. There's a procedure that we have to go through. You know, I just want to, you talked about the illegal, well, not the illegal, the ports that are not as well monitored as perhaps the Kanowaima.
Yes,
Kanowaima. All right. You know, I thought that when I heard about people doing this backtracking, right, I thought it's probably somebody who drives, gets into a little crack, gets into a boat, and just go.
No.
That's not how it is.
That's not how it is.
Enlighten us before we get back to the serious business that you're talking about.
Okay. The owner of this, it's a speedboat operation.
Okay.
It's a service, like how we have Purico service, boat service, and Bartico. It's the same way. But these vessels are registered in Suriname. So we don't have much control of it. Now, on land, we do baggage search at the same backtrack. We would ask to see sometimes passport. Now, we have an issue that came to us before about human trafficking at the backtrack.
Right.
Now, that's not one of our functions as customs
But you
officers.
still monitor and you still assist, I see.
If we're there, the only officers on the port, we will check everything we check for drugs, we check for guns. I mean, that's not our mandate. Our mandate is tax collection and persons who try to evade taxes. But then we would perform agency functions.
Right.
So the port, it's monitored. It might not be monitored like Kamwaimo or the Cheddi Jagan or the other ports, but it is monitored.
Okay, so you're checking, so I can't just decide I'm going to go, when I say I'm going backtrack somewhere, you're saying there's a service that's there. So I decide, I'm just curious though, Lavina, why would I choose one of those unmonitored ports versus Kanowaima?
Sometimes it can be faster because, as you notice, it's a speedboat operation. And even though it's not legal, as Irvin was trying to establish, we basically have a monitoring presence there too from time to time. You know, it's not a case where you can totally stop them. So in this case, we still try to see how best we can monitor the operations.
Right.
Because of course, if you don't have a presence at all, you would find more smuggling, you know, of smaller items, which could be high dutiable, for example, colognes and, you know, items that are high duty,
And they come through,
cell
and they come
phones.
through there.
Yes. So we definitely have a presence there, even though it's not an approved or authorized port of entry.
I get the picture, and I'm sure our
Yes.
viewers at home get the picture. It's
and
something
it's
that we
been
can't
operated
really...
for a lot of years.
Right. You
Yes.
can't really control it, so the better thing to do is to monitor it so that you make
Yes.
sure that it's,
Yes.
at least it keeps to some sort of standard.
You know, remember, because it's a river in the country, we're so close to each other at that point. So the border is, you know, it's very porous. So it's better to have some presence and patrol.
Monitoring.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get to the legitimate port of entry, which is, and leaving, which is...
At Molson Creek?
This is Molson Creek. This is
Yes.
where you get to
Kanowaima.
I haven't
Yes.
ever been to Suriname.
You should take a trip.
I should take a trip. I'm thinking about it. I know some people who are doing it. What I want to know, though, because this is always a curious thing for me. I hear people say, look, I'm heading up to Suriname this morning. And I'm like, okay, all the way to Suriname? Yes, I'm driving up. And sometimes it doesn't even register to me that you have to do the same things you will do as if you were going via plane to another country. So we have documents we need to fill up.
Yes.
Are we complying? Is that a difficult thing for our passengers to do? Are they complying with all the... Do they know that they have documents to fill out? Or like me, they think it's just a ride across?
Like you, and like a lot of others, persons feel that, okay, it's just Suriname. It's not, it might just be important to go in, like going on a plane to Barbados or Trinidad or America, whatever. So the document aspect, persons don't pay much attention to.
But you need documents.
Yes.
You need documents.
Oh, so you can't just turn up and say, look, I'm going over there, here's my ID card.
That you can do at the backtrack. The documents required at the backtrack, it might be just you're supposed to have a
At
valid
least your passport
ID card
or ID.
or a passport.
Passport.
But when
Yeah.
they don't have the presence of immigration,
Right, they get away with it. Okay, but we're going the right track. Let's do the route that is, because I'm thinking that there's safety issues as well with the unmonitored ports. I'm thinking that those are also things you have to be concerned about. It's a risk you're taking, and you have to work that out if it's a risk worth taking. But what if I'm going to do it properly? I'm going through the Molson Creek, that port. So how does this work, Irvin?
okay, Like every other port, you normally have a form. We call it the this customs declaration form. It's a C14. It carries all the information, stuff like the name, address, date of birth, place you will go in, items you're taking with you, currency that you're supposed to be declaring.
Items I'm taking.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're carrying goods that are, I wouldn't say duty, but I would say you might be carrying vegetables.
Oh, you want to cook if you go over there, you want to do your own cooking.
You have to list this.
It's similar to what you would find at the airport in that, you should not take fresh vegetables.
So you have this,
and
those same
likewise-
requirements.
Yes,
This is
it's
interesting.
similar
This is beginning to
requirements.
sound like a pillion ride,
And
actually.
also, it may take into consideration if you're taking electricals and these items.
All this stuff.
Yes,
From-
similar.
So you
And
have to declare. You have to
You
say
have
what
to
you're
declare
taking.
it.
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
you have two choices. You have the form to complete, and you have you can make an oral declaration. So you might not have all the information on the form, but then you'll still see the officer. The officer might ask you, Miss Waldron, what else are you carrying? Now you have the chance there to say, well, in my bag I have, I don't know,
Whiskey.
whiskey, But then if you have to find it, it's a different ballgame.
Okay, so you'd rather we told you nicely right at the start.
Yes.
Say this is what we have. All right. Since you introduced the issue of whiskey, I'm thinking if I put this through with the airport, you have a duty-free area that you can buy your alcoholic beverages,
Yes.
and you can take them. Is there something similar happening in Mawson Creek, or you don't have?
Our duty-free shop is not presently in operation,
It's supposed to be reopened
but it will
soon.
be reopening soon.
So you do have one. It's
Yeah,
just
we
going to
do
be
have
reopened
one,
soon.
yeah.
Okay. So you can go there and you can purchase your whiskey or Hennessy or whatever it is you're taking. Now, so I've done that. I filled the form out. How many? So can I come up with maybe 10 people in this in a car? Can I go with 10 persons in a car? Myself, 20 other people, and we just pull up and say, look, we're rolling over to Suriname. Is this
Well,
how
if
it
it's
works?
one car and you guys can fit, no problem. But no,
It
to
is
be on a
for
serious
us,
note,
yes.
you have some certain documents you have to get. You got to get a third-party insurance. That's very, very important. It must cover third-party liability.
Okay.
Now, the insurance, you can use insurance for Guyana and Suriname. There are special insurances for Suriname usage. Now, the driver's license you're using, the category of motor vehicle you want to go with must be specified on the driver's license, because if you come and you're trying to drive a lorry and your license indicated for cars, we will not allow you,
Oh.
right? So,
So third-party insurance, I have to have that once
That's
I'm
a
going.
must.
Yes, and
And
you
I
must take it out first, Suriname. So you normally
for
go to the
14 days,
insurance
minimum
company,
of 14 days.
and you need to take out an insurance.
Especially for that.
Yes.
Is
For
that
that trip, yeah.
expensive?
No, it's
No,
about
it's-
$3,000 or $4,000.
Okay, so you
Depends.
take out an insurance special. If you're going to drive to Suriname, you have to get your insurance first, and it has to be valid for 14 days.
14 days minimum.
Minimum. Okay, 14 days minimum. Do you when we're leaving? Well, I guess when we get there, they tell us how long we can stay in their country.
Yes.
You don't have to do that. So we have the insurance ready. I have to also ensure that the vehicle I'm driving. So if I'm licensed to drive a car and I'm suddenly decided that I want to go with a minibus and it doesn't say that I'm allowed to drive a minibus, then you will not allow me.
No.
You, Mr. D, will not allow me
Will
to get
not allow
across.
you.
So I can't pass.
No, ma'am.
You should
Okay.
also consider the registration of the vehicle, because if you're willing to burn, the vehicle is registered to Tom Jones. That
Can
would
I not
also
borrow
be.
this? I could borrow a vehicle.
You're
Yes, you
free to
can.
borrow,
You can.
but you must be authorized.
So do I have to have something that says I'm
yes,
authorized?
It's an
affidavit,
notarized
yes,
authorization.
notarized.
A
yes.
notarized
From a
document.
JP.
Yes.
Am I guessing here that this is maybe perhaps this curb any stealing of vehicles?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So this is becoming harder. So you can't take your dad's vehicle and decide you're going to go and joyride
Without.
his permission. So it has to be notarized.
Yes.
You can't just turn up with it. So I'm thinking that I have 3 bits of information. One, I need to get this insurance that's valid for a minimum of 14 days. You go to your insurance company and you ask them specifically for insurance, and it has to be third-party insurance, and it's for Suriname. So you say that, which is a little bit different. The second thing is I need to have a license that allows me to drive the vehicle that I'm going to be going to the port, going through the port with. I must be licensed to drive that. And if it's not my vehicle, then whoever I borrowed the vehicle from or I rented it, I must have some documentation that's notarized that says this vehicle is loaned to Benito or whoever it is so that they can get across to Suriname,
Precisely.
and it has to be notarized. So that's 3 things we need to get out of the way. Do you have challenges with this? Do you see people coming up and they don't meet those requirements?
Daily. Daily. It's an ongoing challenge.
Any other requirements do I need before I can get onto this boat? Because this boat is suddenly beginning to look like it's difficult to get on this boat. Do I need vaccines? Do you look for those things? I don't need
That's
those
not
things.
my function.
Between Guyana.
There is a port health officer that she might
Yes.
request, or he or she at the time might request that.
So there's a port health officer as well
Yes, there.
that can ask you questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Immigration, as I mentioned before, and also Port Health, Ministry of Health.
Now, most of the times when we travel, we want to shop. I'm not thinking so much about, we have things in our bags and so on. But I understand some people take things across to sell as well, because it seems to be a lucrative market. Any one of you can walk me through what it entails. If I really want to take things to sell, I want to take juice, I want to take some chow mein. I understand the bami is not so cute. So I want to take chow mein, I want to take whatever it is that's making that I can sell over there. Is there a separate documentation that I have to do?
Well, yes, you have to prepare what we call an export entry or a declaration.
Okay.
Now, this will list the items you're taking, quantity. If it's a local purchase, for example, you might be the manufacturer, right? You just got to give an invoice to the person you're supplying. The document will be processed. Sometimes persons process documents in Georgetown. We also have the processing facility up there, so you can do it there too. But when you come, you must present this customs declaration to us. And it must, if the ones, for example, the ones that are large quantities, right? We have the drugs unit, drug enforcement unit that normally would stamp it, saying, okay, we check, or they would forward it for us for the examination or detailed examination.
Okay. So if I'm taking 4 packets of chow mein for my aunt, that's okay. I don't have to declare that. I don't have to fill. I don't have to do any kind of,
No,
those
no
little
special
things.
paperwork for that.
Would you pay attention to me if I were taking 6 packets of chow mein, 6 pints of black eye,
Or milk powder.
or milk powder? Oh, that's another thing we take. We take milk powder.
Okay, this is what happens.
Will you begin to check me out? I've got like plenty aunties and so on in Suriname. I want to take 1 each.
Now, in a situation like this is where the officers can start asking questions.
Right.
Okay, what's the reason for this? As you said, you got 6 aunties in Suriname. Well, you can go.
Okay.
Right? Don't get people get this thing wrong that customs officers are there to hustle people. We got a job to do, but then we still have to ask questions.
Right.
Right? And if the answers don't meet our requirements, then we have to turn you back or say, listen, you cannot travel with this item or that item.
Okay.
Right? But we don't focus a lot on small quantities of items going out. Right? It's tough coming back.
Oh, it's the items coming back.
Because most of the tax implications is on import, not much on the export.
All right.
Yes, but at the same time, if you're visiting your aunt in Suriname 2 and 3 times a week, of course, and always taking
6 packets of chow
it would
mein.
draw some
And-
attention. Yes.
Okay. Well, you know what? I just want to give our viewers a quick reminder. You are watching GR's Let's Talk Tax. And this week's program, we are looking at how Guyana facilitates trade with Suriname and how the Guyana Revenue Authority, the role they play in facilitating that trade. With us this week, we have Lavina Walrun. She is the Assistant Commissioner, and she's joined by Irvin Day, who is the officer in charge. He is stationed at Riverton. So look at him properly when you get the next time, if you're going to head through. You might want to ask for Officer Irvin Day, tell him you saw him on this program, and make sure that you comply with the things he just mentioned. So we know that we have some challenges, which documentation and, in terms of insurance and so on. What other challenges do you have in terms of, because you stopped at a point where you talked about items coming into Guyana. I know very often I see vehicles with trade plates from, plates coming out of Suriname. I'm always curious about how that works. What if it comes to Guyana and it never leaves? Do you have a monitoring system? And I guess the same thing works for Suriname. But how do you monitor the items that are coming into Guyana? If I went to Suriname and I did a good amount of shopping, I'm not sure what's hot about in Suriname and what things people will be trading with. But how do you differentiate the things I buy just from my home versus if I want to do active business when I come back?
The first thing the officers would look at is quantity.
Again, quantity.
Now, if you come to me, you have 10 red jerseys or 12 red jerseys, same size, it's going to be hard to convince me, listen, this person want all these jerseys for himself or herself, right? So then we might start looking along the line of, it's a commercial item, it's for resale. If we can establish that these items you bring in are for personal usage,
You let us go.
the same agreement that Ms. Lavina mentioned earlier, it makes provisions for that. That items for personal use, I think it's below the value of $200 are exempted.
Okay. You know what, but I'm curious about something. Do you have to go through a system when I come back from Suriname? Do you have like a scanning system and all of that? Do you have to go through customs and all that when you're coming through? Because I was just trying to work out in my head, how do you get, how would you know? So are you allowed 2 suitcases, 3 suitcases? What?
The quantity of suitcases, not like the
It's not-
airlines.
yes,
you
I
know,
think
it
that
was
basically is
specified.
an airline requirement due to weight on the plane as such.
So
But
they can bring as many as they can?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So,
into the
Irvin,
country.
it's over to you. Tell us what are the requirements if I'm coming in?
We can look back. We look back at the point of an item that is non-commercial, right? You don't need anything. You come, we'll ask questions. You answer the questions. You go free. Now, of commercial quantities, we'll ask you to prepare. Which sometimes, depending on the value, you can put your stuff on a form C73. That makes provision for items value less than $1,000.
Okay.
Right? It might be of commercial quantity of 12, 13, but then it's the value. The
Okay.
value plays a role also. Items that are value more, you have to prepare an entry,
C72.
a C72.
I see 72.
Yeah.
So that's a separate document. So we're looking at 3 different documents by now.
Yes, the first one would have just been your normal
Your
entry
normal
form where
entry
you
form.
take either not declare or nothing to declare.
Right. If, however, you're bringing in 5,000 US, then you have the C72 that you have to fill.
C72.
And do you have challenges? Are people not aware that they have to do those things, or they come up and say, I didn't know?
Well, that's always a situation we have to face daily. I didn't know. Persons come, they say they buy stuff from the duty-free shop in Suriname, and because of that, you're entitled to bring it in duty-free. But they don't understand that the tax are removed in Suriname.
Right.
It's duty-free there. When you come here, you're subject to all taxes.
If it's commercial.
If it's
quantity.
commercial
If it's
or if
commercial
it's
quantity.
above the amount specified in the agreement. The agreement makes provision for alcohol. You made mention of alcohol earlier. Drinkable spirits
Right.
not exceeding 758 milliliters.
That's about 2 bottles?
About one
One
bottle.
bottle.
About 1? Wow.
Right. Wine also, same thing. Tobacco, 220
So I'm only allowed to bring 1 bottle of alcohol? This isn't right.
by
That's
law.
Just 1. That's just
One by law.
1 by law. Okay.
No, you can be 2 if it amount.
Together.
Yes.
Yes, if you bring small ones and it amounts to 758, no
No
problem.
problem.
It sounds to me as if, this alcohol, a lot of people want to bring it across. Now, here's the thing. I know you just said that I can, 758.
Yes.
Is that milliliters? Now,
Milliliters.
Yes.
what happens if I try to sneak it in? Let's say I brought, I was there for a week or 2, and that means I'm going to have a lot of clothes, and I try to, stick a few bottles in my handpiece and not tell you. Do you have a scanner there by any chance?
We don't have a scanner, but like I would have mentioned, the officers would normally flog persons and profile. Flog persons for profiling, meaning they'll do a complete
So
examination.
this is just like a random selection as well,
Yes.
that you randomly checked. Okay.
Yes. So let's say you would have had nothing to declare on your form. And then when the officer, of course, one of the first question as mentioned before, they would ask if you have anything to declare. And if
And
you
I said, no.
also verbally committed that, yeah, you
No,
don't
I
have anything to declare.
It's just my clothes.
And we would have found the alcohol or spirits hidden within among your clothing or vehicle, because a lot of people do that too. They normally conceal it in different parts of the vehicle, and we're on to that. Yes. The penalties for concealing of items.
Deliberately concealing this thing from you.
Yes. It's much more severe, and it's actually seizure. You basically can lose the item.
You can lose the item.
Yes.
Okay, so it
While-
can be seized.
Yes. While on the other hand, the penalties in place for you having amounts that you in excess of
What you're
is
supposed to have.
commercial. Yeah, let's say commercial quantities, you can be able to pay the duties and taxes and
Right there.
basically have your items. Yes.
Are these duties and taxes heavy? If I brought maybe,
Well, for spirits, yes, it's a high duty.
it's a high
yes,
duty item.
yes.
Okay. Now, I know that that's not the only thing. While I'm focused a little bit on rum, everybody wants to bring in alcohol when they're traveling from whatever country. Here's the thing I want to ask you though. There are people who do legitimate trade, however, from Suriname into Guyana. And so often on this program, we talk to them, we talk with, you know, your colleagues, especially those that are responsible for the importation and so on. They have to oversee the process. There are lots of forms people have to fill up. Importers have to do all the documentation. Is this the same thing that applies for Suriname when I'm bringing in items?
Yes, ma'am. The Suriname operation is no different from the other operations in all parts of Guyana, but persons also, they get caught up in, because it's Suriname, they don't need certain documents, certain license. No. All the licenses that are required in Georgetown from the import license for certain items, the agriculture license, the phytosanitary license, that's agriculture issue, those licenses are also applicable to documents processing at Riverton.
So things for like, if I'm bringing in food items and so on, I require a special license.
Yes.
So this is just like, I can't just go to Suriname and decide, look, I want to bring all of these things in, and you're going to let me bring it in.
No.
I have,
So it must
once
be
it's in
supporting
commercial.
yes, must be supporting your C-72
There are a list of
declaration.
items that require license. Not everything, not every food item might require a license. So.
Can you tell us at least one or two of those
Oh,
items?
I can tell you for sure.
And chicken.
Well, chicken.
So if you're
Very
potato.
common, yes.
People know
Potatoes.
this. Right, potatoes.
We got stuff like cooking oil.
Once you bring in those
Yeah.
in commercial quantities,
Yeah.
you
Commercial
require
quantities, yeah.
you require a license.
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you at home, just remember, if you're going to bring 6 gallons of oil, cooking oil from Suriname, Officer Irvin is definitely going to be on. He's going to be asking you, you know, if you have all them people to give oil to. And besides, do you ever look at things like if there's a shortage in Guyana and you think, well, if there's a shortage?
Well, some of the licenses are monitored by their respective agencies because trade,
Yeah, trade.
they would make sure that.
Yes, so if there's for example, if there's a shortage in chicken supply in Guyana, they would increase the amounts
That you can
of
bring
the
in.
license,
The license
issued.
issued, not the amount.
License
The license
issued
issued to
to
persons.
persons. And quantities too. They normally increase the quantities that they can actually
Yeah.
import.
All right.
Yes.
With just a few minutes left of our program, is there anything that we haven't touched on but you really want the public to be aware of when they're either going to Suriname or they're coming from Suriname into Guyana?
Yes, one of the things too they need to remember, just like the other ports, in terms of the airports, you have foreign currency, or currency on a whole must be declared in excess of 10,000.
US.
10,000 US, that is.
Right. Okay.
Yes, they must be declared whether you're leaving Guyana to enter Suriname or you're returning from Suriname entering Guyana.
Once you have anything above 10,000 US, you
Anything
need to
about
declare it.
yes, and there's an actual form that you can fill up, and the officers there would normally take you through the procedure, but it must be declared. So if you're found, there are penalties
Again.
attached, and you can see that on the screen.
Can I say I forgot? Maybe I didn't remember I had this much in the car or in the bag.
No. You can't tell me
You
you're going
can't not declare and then end up
to Suriname with
yes.
10,000 and you know you have $10,000. So what we will do, I think seizure is part of it.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
It's one of the penalties.
Yes, yes.
Now, as you've been hearing about penalties, and one of the things we didn't really touch on the penalties, I understand they're quite severe. And if you want to know those penalties, you can go to the website, the Guyana Revenue Authority's website. The address is on your screen as we speak. Go to the website and look for cross-border trade with Suriname. There's an entire section dedicated to talking about all the requirements and so on, and all the things you need to know. And of course, the penalties, they're right there. All right, so we are coming down to the end of our conversation with Lavina Walrand and Irvin Day. This was quite interesting, I have to say. We understand that there are 3 ports in Berbice that people will use to get to Suriname. 2 of them are not heavily monitored. One of them is a legal and very monitored port, and that is the Kanawaima.
At Molson.
That's Molson Creek, that you take the Kanawaima ferry to go across to Suriname. And it's just like if you're going to another country, there are requirements, which is what we've been going through. If you're going to be bringing in, because we talked about trade, if you're bringing in items into Guyana from Suriname, or you're taking items out of Guyana into Suriname, there are very many documents and licenses that are required, and the Guyana Revenue Authority is saying to you, you have to comply with these. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute, officer in charge, that's Officer Irvin. If you're going to have a really good day when you see maybe 100 passengers coming up to go to Suriname, if you're to have a really good day, what is it we need to do to make sure that you have a really good day?
I think the first step is sensitizing persons. What they're entitled to and what they're not entitled to.
So we must know that.
Yeah, because persons, their excuses are always the same. Or we didn't know. Right? Sometimes it's a genuine case. Sometimes persons just try to play with your mind.
Right.
Officers at Riverton, they work beyond the call of duty. It's a small batch, but we do our work. And we are human, so we come sometimes you understand person's story, just come and speak to us.
Right.
Though all that just gotta catch you.
Okay, you don't want to get caught. Lavina, this is your area. So tell us, perhaps you've got about a minute as well to tell us what are those things you would like the members of the public to comply with and to do better so that they can make the work for your officers easy and also make the life for themselves quite easy.
All right. Basically, whether you're traveling or you're importing an item, it's nice if you can either call ahead if you're unsure on what are your requirements. So call ahead, get the information, so that we're not here to give you a hassle, and likewise, we wouldn't expect you to give the officers there a hassle too. So call ahead, know your requirements, so you can be in full compliance. The other thing is we also notice that a lot of vehicles, as Benita mentioned, comes into the country with a Suriname license plate. Of course, when the vehicle's entering, we normally give them 14 days maximum to stay into the country. But a lot of times we find persons exceed it, and we have to now have other systems in place for persons to catch you and basically deport the vehicles. We don't really want the idea of the trade agreement. It's not to encourage persons trying to beat the system in terms of duty or taxes, and we just want to encourage you to comply. So they can be much better for us, and do pay your taxes. It's better in Guyana.
All right, I like that. Do pay your taxes. Try to make sure you comply. If you're coming into Guyana with a vehicle that's registered in Suriname, you have 14 days. And then you have to obey the laws of Guyana, just like we obey your laws when we get to Suriname. Thank you, Lavina, and thank you very much, Irvin Day. We hope that one day perhaps I'll stop by the port and see how it is. It sounds like an interesting thing to do.
Yes, ma'am, it surely is.
All right, so I'm looking forward to seeing you then. That's our program for this week, everybody. We're happy that you joined us. We hope that the information we gave you give you a clearer idea as to what you need to do if you're planning to drive to Suriname using legitimate routes. Thanks to the production department for the Guyana Revenue Authority. I'm Juanita Huber, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.